All right, welcome to the Mutual Music Podcast. This is Ryan Thompson. I got Jesse Jewett here. Today, we are talking about making an AI band and what goes into actually doing that. It's a lot more than you would think, and a lot more conceptual than you would think, and a lot harder than you would think. And we're here to kind of explain what happened, and with the band Mondrian Urinal, which is one of Justin's creations. So, in part of our bottomless project, we've been making 7 bands, something like that. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorites to surface out of that, which came up kind of later in the project, is Mondrian Urinal. I'll let you describe it, but for me, it feels like The Cure and Franz Ferdinand had a baby. And I love that about it. It's kind of frenetic, new wave pop rock, and it's just a wonderful time when you listen to it. So what I wanted to do today is listen to or discuss basically conceptually what went into, from your side, what went into developing this band in the first place, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we created the music. We're going to listen to the music, and then we'll kind of dissect these songs and talk about even creating the persona even further than that and making some visuals around that. So let's start with what started in making this music in the first place, or making the band in the first place from your side.
Yeah. Thank you for that setup. I mean, boy, oh boy, when you hear the beginning of this story, it's going to be like all that for that. Mondrian Urinal first entered my mind as an idea. I was at some buddy's engagement party, and it was at some bar in the South Bay, the California Bay Area. And in my memory, it kind of like was one of these parties that took a Dusk Till Dawn turn, where it's like everybody was people a minute ago, and now it's animals. Anyway, in the bathroom of this bar, I remember, nothing, and then boom, I'm standing at this urinal, and there's this Mondrian sticker stuck to the top of this urinal while I'm using this urinal, and voila, Mondrian Urinal was born.
So was it a Mondrian, like the actual artist Mondrian sticker?
That's right. Just like some rectangles, man.
Yeah.
Just stuck to the top of this urinal. And, for whatever reason, it stuck with me. I think that I'm the type of person that sort of mentally, picks up little scraps, in life and goes, what am I going to do with that? For example, one of the stories I told an episode or two back is another bottomless band, one of the original bottomless bands that we didn't end up making music for, but was on the first shirt, was Jurassic Nintendo. And that was really just something that I saw written on the side of a box in a dumpster. So it doesn't take much to become a band.
Imagination. Yeah.
In some ways.
In Justin's peripheral, you might be a band. Yeah.
So that was really just this like name that I had. And in the first time that I sort of took a stab at this bottomless thing, which originally was just a t-shirt that was supposed to have this overwhelming block of names on the back of it, similar to like a Coachella flyer. Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to make a looker at her say, wow, what is that? You went to that? So Mondrian Urinal was on the first one in 2018. Then in 2021, when I did it again and decided to like change up the bands and make more of like a logo or something that you would be able to make merch with, Mondrian Urinal made the cut, and I started to think about like, okay, what would this music sound like? Who is this band? And really I arrived, you're not far off at all with like The Cure meets Franz Ferdinand. Like the vibe is really like The Strokes. Hot Hot Heat is really incredible. That really like karate chop guitars with some skinny dude just going freak, and like what I like about a lot of those bands is that they clearly, some of them, Franz Ferdinand is a great one, Interpol to kind of a different degree, but they were all writing radio hits, but like deep down, some of these were like really arty, really weird bands. The Strokes is a really weird band.
I would agree. I would agree.
You know, and I love that about them, you know, and they really kind of give that, like, I don't know, it's like, it's the next generation of, like, the Talking Heads, CBGB kind of, like, bohemian vibe meets this really, like, Black Leather, Joan Jetty type of angriness. But it sounds angry, but then you listen to it and it's not very angry.
They're just love songs. Yeah,
they're just love songs, baby. Like, that sound takes me back to like a really specific time, like 2005, 2006. There's a radio station in San Francisco called Live 105 that really sort of like traded in that sound, and I don't know, it just is one of those sounds that I'll remember the same way that, you know, older people remember disco. Like, this is where I was when I heard my first disco song. This is kind of how that sound is for me.
Well, it brings me back to a time in music, in popular music, where I still remember, you know, this is when like MTV was a thing, or maybe VH1, or I don't know, you could still watch music videos on TV.
Yeah.
And I remember back to back Franz Ferdinand, Modest Mouse, and I want to say the Killers might have been. And I was oh my God, music's changed. Like, this is a different thing. Stuff is happening that I don't know about, or I should know about. And I remember going like, okay, this is, you know, I got to get into this. And certainly, like, I've been a fan of that type of music. Interpol was a big one that came out, you know,
totally
early 2000s, and just like so Mondrian Urinal, I think the music that we've created with that, like, totally reminds me of that. It's like this confluence of all of those things coming together. So when you had that kind of sound in your head, and you had, obviously, you were inspired by this sticker on a urinal, like a physical piece of artwork that had, you know, somebody had haphazardly placed, or maybe very low strategically placed. Yeah. When did you start writing songs for this band, or how did the, like, I know you were kind of using this as like a visual art project originally, but like at what point did you start kind of materializing music, or not songs, I guess, lyrics for this stuff?
Not until you and I first met about this project. Yeah, this is one of the bands that I had given up on, you know, or rather, I guess a better way to say it is that I had made my peace with the fact that this was a visual only project. You know, if I was going to continue doing things with this name, it was going to be, you know, a t-shirt, a Mondrian Urinal t-shirt that would, you know, be kind of designed the same way that the festival t-shirt is, just really designed to confuse, and, you know, I win if somebody asks me who Mondrian Urinal is or something.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Just I knew him before you knew him. Yeah. I got it. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. All right, so then we got together. We started talking about this whole project. You started writing, and the first song that you wrote, or that you gave to me, was called "Performance of Devotion," and pretty much a banger right out of the gate. I love the lyrics to it, and it was interesting to me because I got a hold of it and I was like, all right, you know, I don't specialize in that type of music, but like AI does. But I didn't spend a lot of time like dissecting the lyrics and dissecting the music at first. I was really just trying to get sound out of the system, if you could. Mm-hmm. But like, what went into writing those lyrics? It feels like a love song to me.
It is a love song.
Okay.
It's a love song to my fiance, and the headspace that I was in when writing that. Well, first of all, your comment about like knowing what the sound is versus knowing how to say what the sound is very, very real. Like, when I'm thinking about this music, I'm thinking in like perforated leather and fog and like laser strobes. You know what I mean? Like that's the sound that comes to mind. Like, I see it before I hear it, and then I start to go, okay, well, what is it? There's kind of like a jumpiness to it. Right. Like I said, there's these really like elbow guitar licks that are very like Space Bowie in like, it's like they're tantalizing, but they keep you at a distance. And like the vocals to a lot of this music, the person's always in some kind of like manufactured panic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like but it took working through all of these songs to even get to that. So to answer your first question, what was your state of mind? I was totally blind. For a reason, I had this like wee little Brit in my mind, like singing. I was thinking more on like the Arctic Monkeys, kind of like post Oasis side of this music, and like that's kind of like as far as I had gotten before I started zeroing in on like, wait a minute, all my favorite bands are American bands trying to do that sound. Like the Brit bands are Britpop bands.
Right.
What I am looking for are the guys who worship that sound. So that helped me kind of like zero in on more of, here we are back at Franz Ferdinand. That song was supposed to be a love song, and it was really just trying to lean in. I didn't know what structure worked, or like, we've talked a little bit about like metal songs are often in kind of like third person accusatory or second person accusatory. Yeah. I didn't really know any of that stuff about this music. So really I just kind of wrote something that I guess sounded artsy, and then you were able to take that and do your part of this performance that we do together. And what I found about this is that when I'm working with a real person, this is the tension, but when I'm working with a real person, it's really annoying when somebody's like, I don't know what I don't want until you show it to me. Mm-hmm. But this process allows us to really lean into that and use the process of elimination and say, okay, well, that's not the sound we're looking for, and that's a pretty big stack, right? And then it's like, these are the ones where it's like, okay, something about these is what we dissect now and go for it. It's been so sick.
Yeah, I would hate for you to like go through the boneyard of songs that I've like not sent to you, because you're probably like, oh, dude, that's exactly what I was looking for. But I'm like, nah,
no, this is a duo, brother.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the what I used. So what you gave me was a set of lyrics, and you also gave me kind of a I guess a bio for the band, if you would. And what I just like we talked about before, I took this and tried to essentially create prompts that I could use inside of Suno to create a song, and it was quite a bit. I mean, you gave me a bunch to start with, right? And so just like you've done with a lot of the bands, you like outlined who plays in the band. So you gave me their backstory. So they're a post. I'll talk about the lineup first. So the drums, we've got Keith Matthews, synth Steve Randall, bass. Oddly enough, I played with a guy named Steve Randall. Bass, Dallas Winston, guitar, Daryl Curtis, and vocals, Cherry Valance, which I thought was like, that's a great name. And, they're from Seattle. We talked about them wearing a uniform, but I don't know if they actually do. But they feel like guys that would wear, the skinny ties and the, kind of the Strokes or the Killers type of vibe. New romantic movement, mixing elements of the Smiths, the Strokes, Maximo Park, Parquet Courts, Talking Heads. They almost sound like Midnight Oil. They almost sound like the Strokes, but there's even touches of Supergrass, and I'm a big Supergrass fan. I love that. I was like, oh man, I haven't heard anybody talk about Supergrass in a long time. The Smiths, Smashing Pumpkins. So I'm kind of getting like, as I'm reading this, I'm getting this like you said, it's an American band, but they're feeling very UK.
Yeah, and that sound was so huge, and like add just a little dash of like electronic something, or like some studio trickery in the recordings, and like. Yes. It defined, a decade. It was huge.
Yeah. And I think this line is probably the thing that drives the entire band. So, the beat is nothing more than it needs to be. Angular, period, cold, period, and still a real drum kit played by a bored genius. So this is like, while this would be like a Johnny Greenwood on drums, you know what I mean? Like just just maniac out there that's like, yeah, I could do that, but I could also
Ringo Starr, dude.
Yeah. Exactly. And then synthesizers, understated, more Hall & Oates than Van Halen. So all of this stuff I used. Thank you for putting that together, because who else gets that,
my
right?
pleasure.
And I really do feel like every band should do this before they even start writing songs. So for that, I took that and then just started generating, prompt after prompt, and you can really, I won't go through all the details of it, but you can chat with ChatGPT or whatever your model is of choice, and start to develop prompts around this thing, right? And so then I took that and I said, okay, we have this style, we have this band bio. Now I want to create a song, right? And I want a prompt for this song. So I took the lyrics that you gave me, put it in there, and out of that I got all of these basically different styles used. So for example, post-traumatic art rock track blending the taut urgency of Maximo Park's Apply Some Pressure with the atmospheric minimalism of Eyeless and Gaza's 7 Years, right? So that's also probably copyright infringement, so I think Suno had to clean that up a little bit.
Yeah.
But actually I feel like in this case I was able to use some of that in Suno for whatever reason. But I even said in the prompt, the vocals by Cherry Valance are expressive yet detached. They're part spoken, part sung, slightly distorted. The tone blends irony and sincerity, frustration and affection. Now, I don't know how much Suno pays attention to that, right? I don't know if they're going okay, I can grok that. But I think it all worked because I did that, and I after Performance of Devotion came around pretty quick, and we got there, and I was like, oh crap, that's exactly what I want. That's the sound for this band. And so for me, it was pretty quick to get to this first sound, and when we got there, I was like, holy shit. This is exactly what I had in my head. I'm pretty sure it's what Justin had in his head, and kind of a banger right out. So what I want to do is listen to this just for a bit. We'll give it about 60 seconds. Listen through it. I'll try not to talk, and then we will come back and get into the next one. So here we go. This is Performance of Devotion by Mondrian Urinal.
Here's how I like to do it this time. In the past I tried to tell you, but you haven't been able to hear. I told you at your work, your colleagues thought I was cute. I don't understand why you don't understand me. I keep trying to tell you, now I'm trying to show you. This isn't a mock-up, this isn't a costume. I can't swim the ocean, but I'm hoping you'll agree. My performance of devotion, an affectionate explosion, will make a mess of me.
That is Performance of Devotion. So what'd you think when you heard that back? How did it live up to your idea of this band in your head?
Oh man. I mean, where do I start? First of all, I hear the perforated leather. Okay, that's the number one
right.
thing. Okay, somebody has leather pants on.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And there are so many things. Even, I've listened to that song 40 times, 50 times, 60 times. And even just listening to it now here, I have goosebumps. My experience with the creative process is that, for me personally, the moment I make it, the moment, I'll like ceramics, and then, oh man, people who make ceramics are gods, right? And then I'll get into ceramics, and now I make it, and so now ceramics are devalued. So I expected to not like this anymore.
Right.
But I have noticed to my surprise, I really love this music. Back to this song, like the way that well, first of all, the name in the roster, that's characters from S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders, with Pony Boy and, you know, the Greasers. And Cherry Valance in that story is the female. And so
that's right, yes.
When I put that together, and by this time I had forgotten that I had done that. When I put that together, I was like, hey, maybe it'll be a female lead, you know?
Right.
Suno interpreted Cherry as a male name because males make this music, I assume.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when I was doing visual stuff with a different model, with Google's model, it did interpret initially Cherry as a woman, and, you know, all hell broke loose. But the way that the vocalist breaks into falsetto to kind of express himself is that kind of manufactured panic that I was talking about.
Yes.
You immediately are like, oh my God, you sit down. And like when he's getting through the verse, that little kind of background escalating guitar riffle, very, very fucking Police, you know?
Yeah.
And then it just all comes crashing down again, and it's like, and it's racing, that kind of like, earlier I was saying like a march or like a jump, but really there's a gallop to it, you know, that is not unlike early like Metallica or like thrash metal, you know, but it's just done in kind of this weird 4/4 way that's very sick.
Yeah, it came out really nice. I'm super happy with that song. I actually listen to that song probably daily. This has been like on my repeat playlist. All of a sudden I was like, oh, I actually like this band. I'm walking around singing all the hooks. I'm like having a really good time with this. The folks I've shared it with are like, oh dude, that's great. Like that's so good, you know. So I think we're definitely onto something with this band, and it's been one of the easier bands to work with, I'll be honest. Like there's a few in our repertoire of bands here that have been challenging at times, you know, to continue to do something that is in the ballpark of that band, but also unique enough to be a different song. You know, you're not just regurgitating the same
rinsing
thing
and repeating, right?
Yeah. So for this band, though, you know, we did 5 songs, and literally for the most part, I've been able to use kind of the same prompt across the board, just with some arrangement changes and you know, adding breaks or whatever it might be into the prompt. But for the like, I haven't changed too much of the core style of the band or the persona, which a lot of times you have to do if you want like a dramatically different song. That being said, every song is kind of what we just heard, right? It's kind of like, we're going to hit you in the face with this like
we're going
angular rock, and you know, Cherry's going to go up a couple octaves, you know, during the chorus or whatever.
Totally.
But it's cool. It just becomes this band that you want to hear, and you're like, all right, yeah, like I look forward to the next one. So on that note, the next song that we did was called Known Unknowns, and I would say you provided the lyrics for this. I think there were, you know, at this point we're just like, okay, we have the sound, let's see what we can do with new songs. And I took some liberties on this one, and actually wrote, you know, I was just playing along on my guitar one day, and I was coming up with this little riff, and on an acoustic guitar, just goofing around, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. And I was using it across a couple different bands to see where it worked, and then I ended up applying it to this song with these lyrics, and got this kind of really cool intro that I, you know, most of the songs for this band kind of start right with verse, like right on the downbeat with the verse, like that song, like here's how I'd like to do it. And this one has a little musical intro to it, and it's based on a riff that I put together. So I want to listen to this one, and we'll talk about how it goes. This is called Known Unknowns.
We can't quite crack the issue. We spent up all our treasure. We're right down to our last man. We know we have this problem and we just can't seem to shake it. A strictly American problem, the known unknown, unknown, the known unknowns. At least we know it's there now. We try to make it fair now.
All right, that's Known Unknowns. So a couple things that came out to me or stood out to me during that song, and it's kind of continued through the other songs that we've created for this band, is there's a gasp in there. I don't know if you heard it during one of the verses. He goes, and I'm like, wow, there's this like really human element to it where I think in a studio, if that happened, a producer might be like, they would either be like, hey, we got to go back and redo that, or leave it in because it feels authentic, you know?
Yeah.
And when we've created other versions of this song, live versions, that continues, and it's really cool. Like to me, it's like it creates this like it's this human element to this robotic thing that's happened.
Yeah.
Also, for the record, that intro, they did it way better than I did. Mine was just like single notes on a nylon string guitar, but
we got it from here.
It's yeah. They're like, oh, well, we're gonna add more stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, really cool sound though. It was just an amazing sound, and it sounds like a totally unique approach to a song from the same band, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love the instrumental intro, and what's interesting about this song to me is the intro, or the introductory bass line is very Smiths. You know, you listen to a lot of Smith songs, and the bass is just back there fucking doing its goddamn thing. You know what I mean? And it's very, very cool, and like kind of is independent from the song. There's a little bit of that in this, which I felt was like, okay, you guys stunt and do your flashy shit. We're gonna be back here holding it down. You know? The song itself, like, I'm weirdly proud that it sounds this good, because I know just how like unprepared I was to write it. You know, this idea of there being unknown unknowns, unknown knowns, known unknowns, is this very Rumsfeldian kind of principle for. For anybody not a goddamn Xer, Donald Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense. That used to be a job you wanted to have. And he had this really strange way of talking. I guess I kind of talk that way too. But he would talk in really like obtuse things. You'd be talking about like, damn dude, we're going to war. And he'd be talking about known unknowns and shit,
right.
You know, like that. And so this was really just putting that on as a farce and again, manufacturing some panic. I think that the way that, I think I'm going to use music terms, right? But the way that the chords change into that chorus makes it feel so like radio to me. you know, it just,
oh dude, it's a hit.
It evokes that feeling that I'm talking about from 20 years ago.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah. I love that song.
Yeah, no, it came out really good. I'm very happy with the musicality of that song. What I've noticed is sometimes you can provide like a riff or a chord or a progression to Suno or some audio file, right? And it will only do that sometimes. And what was cool about that is I didn't do much, right? I was just like played a few notes, maybe over the span of about a minute, and then I did make sure that it went back to like, because the verse is just in a single note for the most part, and I wanted to make sure that it was doing that. So other than that, like I didn't do much, but then there's all this like kind of beauty on top of it that, you know, just interprets. It's like, okay, I read about this band, I know what they would want to do, and it's just adding all this like color, and there's really like fundamentally there's not a ton going on below the you know, in the pocket. So
there's
really
one
cool.
thing that happened. There's one thing that happens on this song that we've run into on a couple other songs. We haven't really stopped to talk about it yet, but in the first verse, I don't know if it's we know that it's a blocker line or, sorry, I'm unprepared. It's like, I think it's we've spent up all our treasure or something like that, where he takes this really long, he makes this really long note.
Yeah.
That's something that we wouldn't be able to prompt it to do.
Correct.
And it's something that when it does decide to do it, because it's a robot, it changes everything that comes after it.
Right.
You know, so we were looking at a different song for Wotan, and like in the recorded performance, he kind of used an extra measure for some vocalizing that then in the live performance it skipped, and so the live performance is just a completely different song now.
Right.
So there is a ghost in the machine, and I
There
hope
is.
it's our friend.
Yeah, well, and those, to me, like, those are the type of things that, as, you know, if you're writing songs and you're, like, writing them and also producing, you know, or conducting the music around them, you might do that, right? Like, as a human, you might be like, okay, I'm going to hang on to this note, not because, like, scientifically I should do it or mathematically I should do it. I'm just going to do it because that's what feels good. And then from there, I'm going to end up, you know, maybe on the second chord of that progression. And now we're going to start from there, and everything, you know, the songs are going to change. It feels the same, but it's going to change. And those are the type of, like, human things that you would do. And they're the things that also where you listen to a song, you're like, oh shit, that's cool. I can't quite put my finger on why, but that's cool. And it creates dissonance and energy and, you know, all this stuff that, because otherwise it's just, you know, 4/4 and that's
absolutely.
Yeah, so I love it. The other thing I love about this song, and then we'll move on, is you had asked me, there's a lyric in here, and I think we just listened to it. It said, I know we have a problem, a strictly American problem. And you're like, is that too much? Should I take that out? And I was like, that is gold, dude. Like, I love it. And I love it because he, like, tries to smash all those words into the same, you know, time signature. And I love it. And it feels to me totally like a band of this character would do, you know? Like, where it's just
we're gonna
like,
make a statement here.
Yeah, we're gonna make a statement, you know? And I love the way it came out. Let me see if I can find that again. That's good. Hold on. It's right around here somewhere.
We have this problem and we just can't seem to shake it. A strictly American problem. No.
So not only does he put the words in, he takes a gasp, like because he knows he has to put the words in. Like, that is so cool to me. You know, whether...
This machine, dude.
Yeah, dude, the machine is thinking. But, like, that's exactly what you would do. You'd be like, especially live, you'd be like, okay, I got to get all these words in, so I'm going to, you know, I'm going to breathe in real big. And, like, to me, I was like, that just humanized this whole thing, even though you can't, you know, it's hard to humanize this, but it did. And it makes it feel legit and like a real song, and I think it is.
I love it. Yeah, I think so too.
That's Known Unknowns. All right. So then from there, we moved on to a song called To Each Other. This was a song that I think it's a beautiful song. Actually, most of these songs that I've shared with everybody, this is the one that everybody gravitates towards. And I think because of two things. I think it's got really good subject matter. I think the lyrics are great. And I think the chorus is simple yet, you know, repeatable, and it's something you can walk around. You know, it's an earworm. You just walk around singing it all day, and you know, I think it's just overall a good song. I think the music's good as well. But this was one. I believe you have a kind of a backstory on how this was how it was written, or your writing process in order to get to this, right?
Yeah. My writing process was kind of two-part, where on the one side, I have found that I'm always sort of like jotting down couplets, and, you know, when I do it outside of the context of actual music, I feel a little silly saying this, but I'm going to say it. They are bars, you know what I mean? Like, in my head, it's not poetry. It's not poetry. It's not singing. It comes out in this like folksy meter, but what I've noticed about the things that come out that way is that they have a little bit of a pop culture or sort of fourth wall awareness in the way that rap lyrics do, you know, and of course that's another one of those things that I'm learning about this music as I pay closer attention to it. It's like, oh, that's not the way that they talk, or if they do talk, it's like a really weird young band like Test Icicles or something like that, where they're just, or like Block Party, you know, it's like, wait, you're not supposed to be singing about the real world. You're supposed to be singing about feelings and shit.
Right.
So I had a bunch of lyrics like that, and I think those sort of come out in the other song that we'll talk about, You're Just Better. But I had those, and I liked them, and they sort of like conveyed what I wanted them to convey, to me at least. And I was listening to a lot of The Police. So the reason why I had started listening to The Police is I read this article that involved AI copyright music. We touched on it a little bit an episode ago, but The Police are suing Sting for publishing rights, and Sting's like, well, what are you talking about? I wrote the songs. And they're like, well, listen to the demo versus when the rest of The Police got involved and tell me that we didn't make it better and blah, 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 right? So I started listening to The Police. There's this deeper cut called So Lonely, which I think is just incredibly beautiful. It's a fucking punk rock song. And so I cooked up on Genius and found the lyrics and did a side-by-side and started to think about my lyrics that I had in sort of piecemeal and started to try to map them to that same structure because it's a beautiful and simple song. So I think that's what I borrowed from that song.
When you say structure, did you mean like lyrical structure or like phrasing or melody, or what'd you have in mind, I guess?
Like lyrical structure, like, you know, again, like trusting that, like, if this was enough for Sting, this is enough for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And really allowing myself to be mentored. Like, he decided that it was perfectly fine to only say this many words, so I think I should probably be able to take that feedback.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, let's listen to each other. Let me just make sure I got it queued up here, and we'll come back to it and see how we did.
Yeah.
We're devoted so hopelessly. We've got nowhere to pretend to be. There's something I can't wait to glue. Sticky thing and that something's you. I think we'll just wait for a booth. Really worth it if I tell you the truth. Page counts on blast, that's with single spacing. Went slow but feels like we've been racing. To each other, 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 to each other. Got all my water slung on my back. From deep in the red to about the black. Tell the truth about me at my eulogy. Say a prayer and give my body to the sea. Close your eyes, float the slow, come down below. You're with me, I'm with you, no matter where you go. To each other, to each other, to each other, to each other.
Oh man, that is a banger. So a couple things for that song and this is really just kudos to you and your songwriting. I think it's like there's two page counts on blast. So I'm like, all right, this is modern, this is current. You know, this isn't an old man singing. I think that's great. The whole thing just sounds current. And then, you know, the phrasing up out the black, right? So it's got this kind of like hip hop, urban, you know, phrase or lyrical approach to it. Yet you listen to the music and you're like, yeah, that's current, but that's definitely not hip hop. And, you know, so to have this like kind of new wave pop rock, you know, alt Brit pop thing happening, but using this type of phrasing and lyrics, to me, just it makes it even more legit. It's just like, okay, they're here. It gives it more attitude. It gives it more shape, I think, as a band, and not stuff that you typically hear in that genre, but which to me makes it cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow. Thank you, man. I I got kind of emotional listening to that because I can't imagine it sounding better. Like in terms of, and maybe people that maybe Elliott Smith was used to this feeling, but it's like, okay, I had these emotions, and I took the risk to put it down on paper, right? And I took the risk to call it a song, and then I took the risk to send it to my friend, and then I took the risk to let him do his thing, and then it comes back, and it's like, damn, dude, this makes me feel the way that I wanted it to make me feel. And AI and the entire frame of this conversation aside, that's the sound that I want. That man is performing at least the feelings that I wanted to, where, and by the way, you have I'm going to butcher it, but in one of your songs, it's either Make a Decision or Who Am I? It's like move slow but go quick.
Yeah.
A lot of the material in this song was inspired by that, where, it really is just about like how in the hell did it take us this long to come together? Because it feels like it's been this inevitable rocket ship, that's like bound for collision, and I stand by it. I love this song. It's a great song. And like I said, everybody that I've shared this collection of 5 songs with so far, this is the one. And I think it has a lot to do with, the kind of the tempo of the song. I think it has a lot to do with the chorus is repeatable to each other, over and over. And then, the writing. I think there's some good stuff in there, man. I think you're really, and it's cool to be able to see this stuff come through. And I guess to pause for a second to just talk about, we're talking about making a band here and like creating a band for forever, right? People have sat in the studio and written songs that were not going to be used by them. They were going to be used by other bands and other people, and they had no control over who got it, right? Willie Nelson sat in a room and wrote songs for decades, right? And then just got paid $500 a pop or whatever, right. for whomever to come in there in a nudie suit and play the song. And we actually get, by using these tools, we get the ability to go, no, we actually get to curate who does this. We don't have to do it. We don't have to go form a band, but we get to create who does this and create all of the affect around this band. And go, here, we still control it, So, I mean, to me, it's like we've opened up this whole new realm of not only music creation, but like artist creation. And, I was in the car this evening with my wife, and we were listening to Tim Atlas. I wrote it down. Okay.
And I said, who is a real artist? But I just said, how do you know that's not AI? And she said, oh, I didn't think about that. Well, there's pictures. She goes, there's pictures of them. There, and I was like, well, we can create pictures of bands. And I showed her some of the stuff that we're working on, which we'll get into in a little bit. But like creating the actual visuals for these bands that exist, like that's no different than, you won't be able to tell. Soon enough, you will not be able to tell. This is a snake eating its tail. There are over 100,000 songs per day that are AI generated that are uploaded to Spotify, and pretty soon this is it. Like this, you're going to be listening to AI music and bands that are created via AI. And I think if we're going to do it, what we're doing, I think, is good. And what we want to do is create music that's good and create a vibe around these bands that feels real and feels like something people can identify with. And I think we've done it with this band in particular. And all the bands we're working on will do it. But I think it's a very interesting art science project happening all at once.
It's exactly what it is. It's an art science project, dude.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
It's out here on the frontier, man.
We are. We're out here. All right, so let's move on. So the next song we had was, it's called You're Just Better. I wrote down You're Better, but it's called You're Just Better. this to me feels like another love song written by Justin.
Yep, this is DK, my fiance as well.
Okay, but delivered in a the same type of style. Any background on this song or any thoughts before we get into it?
I think this one comes in a 2-pack with the other one that we just listened to that I can't remember to each other. Again, similar story. I didn't structure this against, or I didn't look at any other pop songs for this, but the lyrics were generated in the same way, where it's like I've got all these like earnest thoughts with nowhere to go, and so taking them and really building them around her. I think I tried to do this theme where you're the difference between A and B, and in particular, I'll have this go down on the record. One of the lines that I had in the song was, "You're the difference between lunch meat and charcuterie." And that became, "You're the difference between sunburns and sunbeams," which is superior.
So a quick story on that. I think I told you this, but I was actually working on that song and with the original lyrics in there. And my wife walked in the room while I was playing that, and she turned around, she goes, "Seriously?" The charcuterie line, and I was like, "Yeah, we probably got to change that." So I changed it to sunburns.
They can't all be bangers.
Sunbeams. They can't all be bangers.
Oh,
but,
and
that's why
it really improved things. It really improved things. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah. There were a few other edits, like minor lyrical edits that I did to this song as we went, like pulling out extra syllables and things like that, because what happens is you have no idea what it's going to sound like. And you do, and you're like, oh, I like that sound of this version that I got, but now it's too many syllables, it's rushing, it's cramming them all in, and or it creates that weird break, like you said, where it'll just be like this long pause to get everything in, and then it'll change the whole song. So there were a few things I had to change in there, but which we do for a lot of these songs, but for the most part, other than pulling out lunch meat out of the song, it came together pretty well. So let's listen to that. This is "You're Just Better" from Mondrian Urinal.
You're the difference between bubbles and effervescence. I compliment your manners, you teach me my lessons. You are the difference between hand claps and applause. With you it feels dumb to worry about my flaws. Sunburns and sunbeams. You're always chill, but you still bring the heat. You do it better. You're just better. You do it better. You're just better. You're just better. You're just better. Japanese forest, sweep you off your...
That's awesome. So two notes I wrote down about this song. One is the way that song builds. I almost envision like the lead singer coming in, or somebody, probably the lead singer coming in and like playing that on a guitar, and everybody going like, "All right, I see where you're going with this," and they're kind of drums come in, the little melody, little fills come in on the guitar, and they build this like band song out of some guy's love song that he had written down, and they're like, "We know you can't really play the guitar, but we're gonna help you." It's like Anthony Kiedis coming in and going like, "Hey guys, check this out." I wrote the
me too.
Yeah. And then the other thing that this song highlights, and this is like a thing you can do in Suno, is there's a weirdness toggle. You can slide the weirdness up and down, and in this song in particular, and with this band more than most bands, I've moved that to the right a little bit, because there's and if you listen to these songs entirely, lots of like this kind of vocal frisson that's happening where it's just like he'll cut out and cut in, and which creates this really cool kind of like thing that you probably wouldn't do live, or you wouldn't do it as you're writing the song. You would never say like, I want this to happen, but it's definitely something that a producer would go back and go like, let's cut this in and out. You can just see them like toggling the switch in and out while they're doing it. And that, as we get into some of the live stuff from this band, has even gone, way weirder, where you can, like in some of the live versions, it feels like they're trying to reproduce it on stage, and it goes kind of haywire, but creates that like frenetic, crazy energy that crowds love, So to me, it's
the guy
like,
at the soundboard. The guy at the soundboard is being paid as an artist at those shows.
Absolutely, or maybe it's like the keyboard player is up there messing with something or doing something. But it to me, it's this like, it's a whole new dynamic to creating songs where the weirdness feature so far, in my experience, this is the only band that has really worked out well for. I've turned it up, where you get past comfortable and you get into like, okay, this is going to be weird. But usually what it does is just like, it just ruins the song. But in this case, it like, I think somehow it just worked out really nicely. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at what the exact settings are, what percentage it is, but it's like 46% weird.
There was, on a different band we work on, Zanunus, which is more of like a grunge outfit. We were doing our kind of proof test where we had a couple of our songs that we were trying out acoustically, and you were messing with the weirdness dial, and this dude was having a panic attack, like the way that I think it was on Sled Dog or something like that. The studio tricks that you're talking about is such a wonderful thing. It reminds me of like the first time I became aware of that was a thing. Like there's this way to just like chop off the end of a guitar and it just stops, and how unnormal that sounded was like when like, I think it was like 9 Inch Nails' Broken. It was right before or after the Downward Spiral, I can't remember. And like that was when he was, recording songs in the Manson house and all that kind of shit. Yeah. And some of those songs do that same thing where it's just like full guitar, buzz saw, and then it just stops. Silence. No echo, no distortion, no nothing. And like, I do love that element of this band and think that it's part of that like weird, futurism that it's got.
Yeah, for sure. I want to try and get to the end of this song because I think this is the one where it cuts in and out. And forgive me if this doesn't work. We'll edit this.
That's all right.
You do it better. You do it
better.
Yeah, that's so cool. And like I said, in some of the live stuff that we're creating for this band, even more exaggerated and more weird. And I love it. I'm here for it. I love all that stuff. Yeah, cool. Well, I think that song turned out really well. I know that you wrote it. I guess To Each Other you wrote as a Police song. The next one also has. This is called Something's Calling, and I believe this has some other background to it. From another song where some other place is calling.
Some place is calling. Somewhere is calling. Yeah, I did look at the song by The Clash, London Calling. And I don't know exactly what got me to do that. That's by no means my favorite song of theirs. But I think I realized that I don't know what a single other word in that song is other than London Calling. Like where he's talking about living, so I went on some investigation and tried to understand like, okay, what is this song? Is this song trying to be about something? Because that's one thing. Or is this just some sick song that we all love that's about nothing? Because that's also cool. Right. And so that was the beginning of my discovery. That was the door of the dungeon. And I really have no idea what I learned. I couldn't tell you what the song is about still or what any of the words are. But again, I was reassured by seeing a song structure that, like visually, I had no idea why it worked. It looked like it should be too much. It looked... if you just look at the line length and the word count of that, it looks like a sonnet, it looks like poetry or Shakespeare or something else. but it's a fucking song. And then when you listen to the song, we were talking about this. When you listen to the song, the words are invisible. You can't hear them. You can't touch them or interact them, but you're completely affected. You may have a different experience, and I don't mean to step on that, so I'll make space for that. But I'm completely affected by just this big, echoey fucking werewolf hellscape of the song London Calling.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was just that was how I stepped into that one, and here we are with Something Calling.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about that is that you mentioned this echoey thing. I did, in the prompts for this, I wanted it to have more reverb. I wanted everything to like bounce back a little bit more. And so I did prompt it to do that. And you also mentioned like the length of the song. And it's probably like fundamentally, I would say it's probably a verse too long. There's a point at which you could be like, yeah, we can end it here. And everybody would be just fine.
I feel that way too.
Yeah. But we pick it up, and I like what happens. You know, there's like this point where you're like, okay, it's about to end, and then we're like, nope, we're going back in, and it's a whole nother verse at the end of it. Yeah. And you know, like the accountant brain in me wants to go through and just be like, no, this is where the song ends. But the artistic side is like, no, let's let it flow. You know, you wrote the words, they mean something. Let's not just chop them. And the intent, I think, too, was to like do that and then go back and chop it, and you know, or figure out where we could end it. But it was like, it's kind of this like neat little coda, you know, to the end of the song. Yeah, it's very cool. So
I'll tell you, my thought process for this, and maybe I haven't shared this with you, is that like, and this is maybe back to AI and the iterative nature of building these songs, is that yes, there is an additional verse that isn't, you know, it's great, fine, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's neither here nor there. It's an extra verse. But then after that, there's this weird little 2-line thing that I put in there. I have no idea why, where he says, that's the window they gave me. That's the window I crawled through. Right. And that part is fucking sick. You know, right. And so it was like, damn, dude, do I ask him to change it and then maybe the Jenga tower comes falling down? Or is the uncertainty of this verse worth the kapow of this little tail end part? And I chose kapow.
Yeah, I like the kapow. Let's listen here, and then we'll see if we can conjure up the kapow. But this is the beginning of Something's Calling. He is, but he's doing it in such a good way, you know. And I think so. First off, does that sound like London Calling to you?
Nah,
not at all. Not at all.
It's like saying, "Oh shit, mine's yellow too."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think this song, again, like most of these songs for this band, just came together really well. I think the persona is either easy enough for AI to interpret, or you know, there's enough references out there to where it's just like, yeah, I know where you're going with this. But at the same time, like all these songs sound cohesive. They all sound like they belong on the same album, written by the same people, which they were, and performed by the same people. Yet they all have this like very unique, intricate little parts to them, which makes me super happy as like somebody who's producing this music. Because the last thing you want is like, is that the same song? Like, you know, It's and that to me, that was the last song that we did of this band, and to me it was like, I was like, are we gonna just get on repeat here? But no, it's got this very like really unique little kind of cutesy guitar piece going on in the beginning, and the way that he's handling the vocals are, he's doing like the falsetto. He's like kind of arcing up into the falsetto during the phrase, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that's happening here that happens in a lot of these other songs is he's taking all the words that you have and he's cramming them into the time signature, but he's doing it in a way that is artistic, and it's not like somebody singing karaoke, where they're reading where the ball's bouncing. He's like, right. Yeah. And in fact, I think there's one here where he says, "I'm off the grid, love," at the end of that chorus.
Yeah.
And I believe the original words were, "and me, comma, I'm off the grid, love." Like, you're asking about me, I'm off the grid, love. And it was too much, but I left it in the very last one because I feel like there's enough momentum going to where he's like, "And me, well, I'm off the grid." He's just like,
dude.
He's blowing up at the end. He's like, and so like, to me, you can kind of help tell this story there. Your thoughts on this song though? How do you feel like this came out?
Well, yeah, when I first heard it, and here I had a little bit of a bootlegger's guilt, right? Here I'm getting ready to send money to the Clash.
Yeah.
And so all that guilt fluttered away in a blaze of glory. I was like, damn, dude, this is a different song. Cool, sick.
Yeah.
The way that first guitar lick, it's almost like Tears for Fears for me, where
totally.
I don't know what, I guess that it would be the reverb coming where it all starts to blend together and wash together like a watercolor. Mm-hmm. Really, really, really sick. And then, once you get to that beat and just that like franzy gallop, the other thing that I really love about this song that I didn't expect to is the way that the chorus works. He's in a rut. He's trying to keep up. And he's got all these words to say, and he's trying to tell somebody all these things kept happening and kept happening and kept happening. And like, it's cool to hear somebody who he made it, you know what I mean? He doesn't have to rush. He could just slow it down, but he's sort of like giving himself to like, I'm going to try to keep up with this thing that's happening. And that really adds an element to the song for me. Which is cool.
Yeah, I think I and kind of like the previous song where I can picture the creation of this as a band. Like, I feel like the lead singer of this band is not a guitarist. He's not a musician. He's a singer. He's a songwriter and a singer.
He's a fucking Bono, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he comes in with way too many words and way too many verses, and maybe it's just like a poem, and the band's like, okay, well, this is the time signature, and this is how we're doing, this is the melody, you fit it in here, and he's like, okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to do it in this kind of rushed, yet artistic way, I'm going to push up against the line so much that it's going to sound cool, and that, to me, I mean, that's what creates, there's that angst and
tension.
that tension that creates good music, right? If it was just like something's calling, it sounds like a bunch of kids singing. And so I'm super thrilled with that. I do want to see if I can get to that middle part where I guess it's near the end where the kind of the bridge, I guess.
It ends and then it stops ending. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see if we can do that. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but we'll try and get there.
Then it's calling and me while I'm off the grid, love. Something's calling, it's bound to find you. They'll shatter your screen and lock up the glue. Something's calling.
key facet of this music, just those really like ugly guitar sounds where it's going to hit you with a rare, like there's got to be some kind of dissonance, and it convinces you that it's still good looking, like it's it's still dolled up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you were to break that down, it is a little like, kind of ugly, but it's so good, and it's so fast and so frenetic that it's great. That piece in that song is interesting because that last verse gets sung as kind of a bridge, It's this like slowed down version of which is like a cheap and easy way to do a bridge. You just slow down the verse, or the chorus, and just do it again. But because I can't write a bridge to save my life, so I do that often. But it does that. But then like throwing in all of a sudden, there's these two little phrases in there, like it's the window you gave me, that's the window I jumped through or crawled through. It's just like beautiful. That's good songwriting, man. You give yourself a pat on the back there. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that is the last of the 5 songs. So we've got 5 what I think are really great songs from Mondrian Urinal. This band that has played at Bottomless Festival. So as we're creating this band, we've created the written persona. We've created the sonic persona. We know what they were intended to be. We now know sonically what they sound like. What do they look like, Justin? What does this band look like?
What does this band look like? Let me share my screen. I've been working on just such a thing. I can give you a taste of what they look like. Here we go. I mean, the short answer, if we're really going to get down to it, is like Mr. Brightside era Killers. Really wanting that kind of like that 70s big light show-ness, of like really leaning into a stage show, but also just being kind of like dirtbag guys that forget to take their jacket off before they get on stage. I mean, like that was the kind of vibe. Cherry here, I would call this kind of like the defining shot of what I have so far, where it's like, this is the guy that I'm seeing in my mind when I'm listening to these songs. Here they're no friend to the police, but they can make nice if they need to. There's always a lot of sweat involved. And like I really had fun experimenting with like the moodiness of these shots, and I think like the quality of these, or the tone of these photographs, is doing a shitload of work here. But this sort of like leather up front, sweaty in the back thing was a cool theme to play with. The challenge in the process is a little different than what we've been dealing with in the music stuff, is that, like visually the AI has to remember there's this many people.
Right.
They are these people, and they play these instruments, and that's like table stakes, right? And then if you want to try to get photographs that were supposed to happen at the same place and time, they're wearing what they were wearing, right? And so I've noticed just with those 4 musical chairs, there's a lot of creative fudging that's happening.
Some liberties taken by
that's
the nano banana. Yeah.
By the nano banana. But, like we were talking about, the goal, I think, is that once we get to sort of like a shot list that portends to be coverage, we can use that as our persona, kind of Lammy, and say, wherever we need to generate visuals for this band, we've got a brand kit, we've got the logo, and we've got sort of like creative guidelines, thanks career. And then we've also got, just this scrapbook that will allow us to sort of like spin some content up whenever we want, baby.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. You shared that stuff with me for that, and the other bands we're working on. I'm like blown away by it. Just as you are, like I'm not a visual artist. I mean, I've painted and drawn and stuff like that, but like like digital creative has never been my thing. I'm just terrible at it. And so like being able to generate that and see it, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And also I think it's just so interesting how you can now, you know, we can, like we said, we've got the background, we've got the songs, we've got the visuals. And, you know, if you are a person that gets a hold of this music and you're able to like read a background about the band, understand who's in it, or, you know, who's theoretically
who's in it, who's behind it.
Yeah, who's behind it, understand the songs, read the lyrics, identify with the music, and then look at pictures of it. Like, is that any different than listening to a band that you'll never go see in concert?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, these are real songs written by real people, generated. You know, we've used tools to help generate them, but like, there's time and energy put into this. Like, how different is that? And like, what's to stop somebody from going like, yeah, that's the band, man. You know, I'll play Make Believe for a little bit. Cool. Or maybe, you know, and not like we're trying to dupe anybody, or I'm almost just trying to like, okay, this is fantasy, so let's continue the fantasy and let's make it, you know, full tilt. Like, this is it.
I'm excited about it. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about like a success would be one of our songs showing up in some kind of curated playlist that maybe doesn't necessarily have no other AI songs, but there's definitely non-AI music in there. I feel like that would be a success. And I, you know, it's not like me to agree with somebody saying good stuff about anything that I've made, but like I agree with, these are good songs, dude. Like I could imagine that. So I'm pumped.
Yeah. No, this is great, man. So basically what we've done today is we've kind of divulged what it took to make a band and what goes into creating those songs for the band, the persona for the band, and, you know, even touched on what it takes to make some visuals for the band. So I think the next step for this band, obviously, they played the festival. We're going to have some live music out from them at the festival, the Bottomless Festival, when that comes out. But you know, is your plan, and do you want to see this stuff on Spotify and all the streaming channels with the rest of it?
I would love to. Yeah,
let's get it out there.
I'm really proud of it, and so yeah, if you're down, I'm down.
Oh yeah, we're down. We'll have to ask the band, but we'll see.
Okay,
we'll see what Cherry Vance has to say. Cool. Well, as always, man, it's been a pleasure. This is great, and I'm looking forward to getting this stuff out there, and so people can experience it. And we'll be back soon with the next one. We'll talk about another band.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Same to you, man. Talk soon.
All right. Bye.
We're devoted so hopelessly. We've got nowhere to pretend to be. There's something I can't wait to glue. Sticky thing and that something's you. I think we'll just wait for a booth. Really worth it if I tell you the truth. Page counts on blast, that's with single spacing. Went slow but feels like we've been racing. To each other, 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 to each other. Got all my water slung on my back. From deep in the red to about the black. Tell the truth about me at my eulogy. Say a prayer and give my body to the sea. Close your eyes, float the slough, come down below. You're with me, I'm with you, no matter where you go. To each other, to each other, to each other, to each other.